up, creeps? I'm Exorcist, and you're hanging out on the Scurred channel. So we are going to take a peek at a brand new series coming out on Netflix. Basically a series of 3 movies. And what I'm referring to, of course, which you can see on the screen, is Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Now, this just dropped a couple days ago. I think it's number 8 or so up on the playlist of top 10 right now for Netflix. So if you have Netflix, you can check this title out. You can watch it. Before you do that, do keep in mind this review and what you're walking into. So overall, it's interesting. It's enough to keep you interested. It's enough to keep you captivated. You keep watching it, for better or for worse. And you know, I didn't really know where it was going. I spent a lot of the time in this movie going, how? Why? Does that tie in at all? Does that make any sense? So let's give you the plot, the premise. Basically, a group of teenage friends accidentally encounter an ancient evil that has been really plaguing the community of Shadyside for years and years and years, like over 300 years. So basically, throughout different parts of the movie, they'll go through and be like, oh, well, this series of murders happened back in 1958, and this happened back in, 1947. So it kind of jumps you all over the place. There's different bad guys, different characters, and they all kind of surface towards the end of this movie. So it gets a little bit weird. But just enough, like I said, to keep you interested, keep it entertaining, and you keep watching expecting something to get better or something to be like, oh, this is great. But keep in mind that this is more of a slasher film. I know when I say slasher film, I want you to very much think Scream. Okay, you go back to the Scream movies. There's stabbings and crazy guys in masks chasing you around and teenage girls screaming. Very, very, very much Scream kind of slasher movie. So if you're familiar with the Scream movies, you're having an advantage when you start walking into these. You kind of know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect. I thought, Fear Street, man, this could be anything. I started to read a little bit about the plot, which involves a witch, and I was like, that sounds okay. So the witch doesn't make a bunch of appearances. In fact, the witch is it must be a part of the 3-part series that's going to be a little bit more in depth down the line, maybe in number 2 or maybe even number 3, which kind of goes backwards. But the witch is a critical piece of why all of this is happening. They gave us a little bit of background to her and some of the tragedy that she went through and basically, cursed the community of Shadyside. So a little background info on Fear Street in general. Shadyside, as well as another town called Sunnyville, or Sunnyside, is actually a throwback to some books that a lot of people, especially even in my generation, are familiar with. And those are books written by the author R.L.Stine. So you remember the Goosebump series of books. I mean, there was everything you can imagine. And they did some Goosebump movies a while back, but R.L.Stine has a huge writing credit in this. A lot of it was based off of his original books. Kind of interesting. They're actually called the Fear Street books. So this is Kyle Killen's story, and Phil Grizzotti, sorry, Phil, had a big hand in the screenplay as well. So a couple of big contributors here, but R.L.Stine is the main contributor of some of the base of this story. So right there you should have a sense of, okay, this is geared more towards a teenage audience, even a younger crowd. And you get that vibe from this film almost instantly. Some of it feels forced. Keep in mind, we're going back to 1994. If you were alive in 94, it was kind of an interesting time. I was 10. There's some throwback references that are fun. The girl goes downstairs, yells at her brother, says, hey, you got to get off of AOL. And so those are kind of things that, usually I have Boo with me. She has no idea what AOL is. So there's a lot of references that somebody my age gets and kind of go back in time and be like, yeah, computers look like that. This big boxy, machine. And it makes it fun. It's fun to walk back to 1994. Like I said, I was 10, so it was a interesting time in my life. There was a lot of stuff that was forced. There's a relationship here in the movie that is, not a, we'll call it a traditional relationship, and that's something that was really not open in 1994. It's very taboo. To have a boyfriend to have a boyfriend and a girlfriend to have a girlfriend. It was, 1994 is a different time. So some of that was kind of interesting, and it felt really forced. But it was good in that some of those people became key players. And the very end, which you guys know the rule, no spoilers, but the very end, these two main characters do make up and love each other, yada, yada, yada. All before it hits the fan, and you go, I know that there's still number 2 and number 3 coming out, so where are they going to leave this? And they leave us at a spot that's like, just bad enough that I actually have to watch Fear Street Part 2. I thought I was going to get away with it. I mean, come the end of Fear Street Part 1, I was like, I don't know if I'll watch Part 2. But then the end of Part 1 made me go, okay, that's a whole different element. Like, this is not what I was expecting. So there's plenty of reason that you might want to watch the series and get a jump start on Fear Street Part 1. As mentioned, it's on Netflix, so if you have Netflix, you can jump in there. IMDb TV is only giving it a 6.2 out of 10, and I think that it's probably in that range for myself. I don't know if I'd give it much more than a 6 on the Scurred scale. It's really not a scary movie. It's more of a slasher. There's a couple different masked characters, nasty witch, crazy girl that wants to stab you with razor blades, and there weren't very many jump scares. Like, I don't think, I'm not jumpy anyway by default, which bothers my family a lot because they try to scare me all the time, just didn't work. But I don't remember any distinguished parts of the movie where I was like, it just wasn't there for me. And maybe a younger perspective, somebody like that would have this is kind of creepy. It just wasn't there for me. And in terms of scary, story was decent. I mean, the story, I might give it independently a 7. It was kind of hard to follow, jumped around, gave you a lot of information in a little time, and I'm kind of glad there are still 2 more films because I have a lot of questions. And a lot of those questions were not answered in the first film. So we'll see. We'll see what Fear Street Part 2 and Part 3 bring. And overall, it's worth a watch. I mean, it's on Netflix, so if you already subscribed to Netflix, it's free. You're looking for something scary, you're looking for something to, burn an hour and a half of your time, this might be something that you want to check out. Overall, like I said, it's a slasher film, not very scary. There are some kind of risque parts in it. Younger audience, I don't know if I would recommend it. The blood and gore part of it for a slasher film is there. I mean, there's some blood streaks. There's some squirting blood, and there's some burning flesh and stuff like that, where it's pretty realistic looking. I mean, a younger viewer might go and have nightmares, that kind of thing. Overall, I didn't fall in love with any of the characters. If there was one character that I really fell in love with, it was Josh, and this is played by Benjamin Flores. And he is kind of the younger brother of Dina, main character. And Josh was always, he's like my favorite kind of guy in a horror movie. He's the one that knows about, the witch and the history of it, and he starts putting the pieces together. He has all these recommendations. He's the horror geek in the movie, so naturally I fall in love with the guy. But he was probably the only character that I really walked away with a sense of, yeah, I like this guy. Sam, who is one of the main characters, and Dina, also main character, they have some on-screen chemistry. As we talked about, that relationship is just, I don't know, It was very forced. They were fighting, and then they were loving, and then it was, I don't know. Watch the movie if you care. Something worth checking out. But shout out to the character Josh. Benjamin Flores did a great job. And I think every movie needs a horror geek in a horror film to explain the rules. They draw the parameter of the film, and he did it really well. He is talking with a mysterious lady on AOL chat, which I think will turn out to probably be the witch or somebody similar. Gives him ideas, says, hey, did you see this? There's definitely something bigger there. They just haven't revealed it in part 1. So, quick synopsis overall, like I said, give the movie a 6, maybe a 6.5 on a boring day. Nothing better to do. But I'm looking forward to Fear Street Part 2 and Fear Street Part 3. And we're going to see what they bring. Until then, I think you guys should check it out. Drop some comments down below. Click that like button. Hit subscribe. We'll keep you up to date on all of these new Fear Street parts as they come out. Hopefully they get a lot better. And hopefully they're a little bit more scary than these ones are. That's about it, guys. Any questions, any comments, drop them down below. Love to hear from you on the channel. And until next time, as we always say, sleep tight.